If you embarrass me tonight, you'll regret ever stepping into my life. I hope I won't regret hiring you to be my girlfriend tonight.
Your job is simple. You don't talk. You don't explain yourself. You don't tell stories. You don't try to be funny. You don't try to be smart.
If you embarrass me tonight, Sandra, I swear you'll regret ever stepping into my life. I hope I won't regret hiring you to be my girlfriend tonight. The words hit Sandra like hot water. She stood in the middle of the billionaire's dressing room, her hands trembling inside the sleeves of a dress she had never worn in her entire life. The gown clung to her body, as if it was made just for her, soft, expensive, glowing under the golden lights of the room. Her hair was no longer tied with rubber bands. It was styled into neat waves that framed her face beautifully. She barely recognized herself, but no matter what they did to her outside, her heart was still the same, a heart that had been quietly loving him. A heart that had been quietly breaking. Every single night, Adrian brought a different woman home. Adrian Cole, billionaire, CEO, cold-hearted perfectionist, stood a few steps away, adjusting his cufflinks like a man preparing for war. His face was sharp, handsome, unreadable. Even in silence, he looked like a man who could destroy lives with a single decision. Sandra swallowed hard. "Yes, sir," she said softly. Adrian's eyes cut to her like a blade. "Listen carefully," he said. "My family reunion is not a place for mistakes. They're snobs. They'll judge everything the way you stand, the way you speak, the way you hold a glass." Sandra nodded quickly, her throat tight. "Okay, sir." He walked closer. His expensive perfume mixed with the scent of her hair products. He looked at her the way someone looks at an object, something he had cleaned, polished, and prepared to display. "Your job is simple," he said. "You don't talk. You don't explain yourself. You don't tell stories. You don't try to be funny. You don't try to be smart." He paused. Then came the words that cut deepest. "Because you can't." Sandra's eyes burned, but she blinked fast. She had cried too much in this house. She had promised herself she wouldn't cry again, especially not where he could see it. Adrian continued, his voice calm, cruel, controlled. "You will only say, 'Hi, hello,' and if anyone asks, 'My name is Sandra.' That's it. If you say anything more, your accent will betray you, and they'll laugh at you, at me, at everything." Sandra whispered. "Okay, sir." Adrian exhaled and stepped back, satisfied. Then he did something unexpected. He looked at her properly, not like a maid, not like a worker, but like a woman standing in front of him. Breathtaking, glowing, gorgeous, and nervous. For half a second, his eyes softened. Then the cold returned. "Let's go," he said. Sandra had worked in Adrian's mansion for 2 years. In those 2 years, she had learned one painful truth. The man had everything, except peace, money, power, luxury cars, private jets, a mansion so large her feet hurt every day from cleaning it. Yet he always walked around like someone chasing something he could never catch. Sometimes, late at night, Sandra would be cleaning near his office and hear him on calls, women laughing too loudly, flirting too sweetly, pretending to want him. Then the calls would end, and silence would fall like a heavy cloth. Adrian would sit alone with a drink, staring into nothing, because the women never stayed. They took his money, then disappeared from his life. That loneliness used to make Sandra's chest ache, because she wanted to be the one to heal it. But Adrian never noticed her heart. To him, Sandra was just local, uneducated, uncultured. A maid who spoke broken English and dressed like she didn't understand the world. He disliked her openly. "Why can't you talk properly?" he would snap. "Why do you dress like that? Why do you always look so village?" Sometimes he complained about her to the house manager, thinking she couldn't hear. "She's beautiful." "Yes," he once said, "but beauty without class is nothing." Sandra heard it. She smiled through it. She worked through it. Because the truth was, she loved him anyway. The drive to the reunion felt like a dream Sandra wasn't sure she deserved. Adrian's car was quiet, smooth, expensive. He stared out the window like he was already tired of what was coming. Sandra sat stiffly beside him, afraid to wrinkle her dress, afraid to breathe wrong. Her phone had no data. She couldn't call her mother. And even if she could, what would she say? Mama, I'm going to pretend to be a billionaire's girlfriend tonight. Her mother would laugh until she cried. Sandra stared at her hands. They were neatly manicured now. For the first time in her life, her nails were shaped and shiny. She didn't recognize them. Adrian glanced at her. You're shaking, he said. I'm scared, sir. Don't be, he replied, his tone commanding, not comforting. Just do as I said. Sandra nodded. The car pulled into a massive estate filled with luxury cars and bright lights. Music floated through the night air. People in expensive clothes stood outside laughing like life had never hurt them. Adrian stepped out first. Then he opened Sandra's door. The moment she stepped out, the world paused. Heads turned. Whispers followed. Sandra felt the stairs like invisible hands touching her skin. She held Adrian's arm the way the makeup artist had taught her, softly, carefully, like she belonged. Adrian's family was waiting. His mother, Mrs. Cole, wore pearls and a smile that never reached her eyes. His older brother, Victor, stood beside his polished wife. Cousins surrounded them, dressed like magazine covers. Mrs. Cole's smile froze when she saw Sandra. Adrian, she said slowly. Finally. Mother, Adrian replied. Mrs. Cole's gaze slid to Sandra. And this is? Sandra's throat went dry. Adrian's eyes warned her. Don't talk. Sandra forced a smile. Hello. Her voice was soft, but her accent was there. The air changed. Victor's wife raised an eyebrow. A cousin smirked. But Mrs. Cole didn't laugh. She stared harder, like Sandra was an item under inspection. What's your name, dear? She asked. Sandra remembered the script. My name is Sandra. Interesting, Mrs. Cole said. Adrian gently tightened his grip on Sandra's hand. Good. Stop there. They entered the hall. Champagne glasses clinked. Laughter echoed. A piano played softly. It was beautiful, but Sandra felt like a fish thrown into a palace. People rushed to greet Adrian, business partners, family, friends, women, and when those women saw Sandra, their smiles changed. A tall woman in red approached confidently. Adrian, I didn't know you were bringing someone serious this time. Nina, Adrian said politely. Nina's eyes swept Sandra from head to toe. Oh, sweetheart, she said sweetly. You're gorgeous. Where are you from? Sandra's heart jumped. Adrian shot her a warning look. Sandra smiled. Hello. Nina blinked. I asked where you're from. Sandra opened her mouth, but Adrian leaned in smoothly. She's shy, he said quickly. She doesn't like talking in public. That's adorable. Nina smiled, but her eyes said something else. You don't belong here. Sandra swallowed. She wished she could disappear back to the mansion, back to her apron and rubber bands. But then she felt Adrian's hand still holding hers, not pushing her away, not hiding her, holding, and that small thing made her heart do something dangerous. It hoped, as the night went on, something changed. Adrian began looking at Sandra more. At first, quick glances, then longer ones. Once, he caught himself staring at the curve of her smile. She didn't even know she was smiling, because for the first time in her life, she was inside his world. Even if it was fake, even if it was borrowed, it still felt like a dream. Then came the moment that shook everything. Victor clinked his glass. Let's celebrate, he announced loudly. The women who stand beside the Cole men. The women who match our level, our class, our legacy. Everyone cheered. Sandra's stomach dropped. Victor looked directly at her. And Adrian, he said with a grin. Since you finally brought someone, let her speak. Tell us something about herself. The room turned. All eyes on Sandra. Her breath caught. Adrian stiffened. Don't, he whispered. Sandra's lips trembled. If she spoke, she might ruin everything. If she didn't, she would look like an empty doll. Her chest tightened. Then, without a word, Sandra stood up and walked quietly toward the restroom, leaving the room holding its breath. Sandra locked herself inside the restroom and collapsed against the door. Her chest rose and fell rapidly. Her hands shook as she pulled out her phone. For a moment, she hesitated. Then she called the only person who had ever truly understood her. Her mother. The call connected. Sandra? Her mother's voice came through, worried. My child, what is wrong? You sound sad. Sandra's voice broke instantly. Mama, I don't belong here, she whispered. They are all looking at me like I am nothing. Her mother gasped softly. Where are you? At my boss's family reunion, Sandra cried quietly. I am pretending to be his girlfriend. There was silence on the line. Then her mother spoke gently. Why would you agree to that? Sandra wiped her tears with the back of her hand. Because I love him, she confessed. If I was not in love with him, Mama, I would never have agreed. Her mother sighed deeply. My child. They hate my English, Sandra continued, her voice shaking. They hate my accent. They hate how I talk. They hate me. They think I am stupid. Her mother's voice softened, firm and protective. You are not stupid, she said. You are strong. Sandra nodded, even though her mother could not see her. I just want to disappear, she whispered. But I don't regret loving him. I don't regret helping him. What Sandra did not know was that someone was standing just outside the restroom, listening, recording. Victor's wife. She stood quietly, phone hidden in her hand, a satisfied smile forming on her lips as she captured every word. A few minutes later, Sandra washed her face, took a deep breath, and walked back into the hall. The moment she stepped in, the room went silent. Every eye turned toward her. Adrian stood frozen in his seat, his face pale, his eyes heavy with something that looked like pain. Before Sandra could sit down, Victor's wife stood up. Oh, she said loudly, fake surprise dripping from her voice. Look who finally came out of the restroom. Soft laughter rippled across the room. She raised her phone. The maid, she continued cruelly, who is secretly in love with her boss. Then she pressed play. Sandra's voice echoed through the hall. If I was not in love with him, Mama, I would never have agreed. Her local accent filled the room. Gasps. Then laughter. Loud, cruel, sharp. People laughed like they had just been entertained. Everyone. Except Adrian. Adrian did not laugh. He stared at Sandra like his heart was breaking right in front of him. Sandra felt the humiliation crash over her like a wave. Her legs trembled. Her heart screamed at her to run, but she didn't. Instead, she wiped her tears and stood tall. Yes, Sandra said, her voice shaking, but strong enough to cut through the noise. I am in love with my boss. And so what? The laughter slowed. Some people gasped. Others whispered. Sandra continued, tears rolling down her face. Is it a crime that I am not educated? She asked. Is it a crime that I speak bad English? The room went quiet. Sandra swallowed and kept going. I stopped school, she said, touching her chest, so my younger sister can go to school. Murmurs began. I worked, she continued, her voice growing stronger, so I can pay hospital bills, pay rent, and take care of my sick mother. The laughter died completely. I may be local, she said. I may be uneducated. She lifted her chin. But I am hardworking, and I am smart. Silence. I am honest, she went on, and I am better than many of you who speak perfect English, wear expensive perfumes and clothes, but have no heart and no decency. People stared. Shock filled the room. Even with her broken English, her confidence stood tall. No one laughed anymore. Some people lowered their eyes. Some felt ashamed. Adrian stood up slowly. He walked toward her, regret written all over his face. Sandra, he whispered, reaching for her hand. She stepped back, avoided his gaze. Her voice was calm now. No, she said softly. Adrian froze. Sandra smiled through her tears. I loved you quietly, she said. You never saw me. She turned to the room one last time. But today, I see myself. Then, she walked away, her back straight, her head high, her heart proud. The room remained silent, because the maid they mocked had just walked out stronger than all of them. Sandra did not look back as she left the reunion. She walked out into the night like a woman who had finally reclaimed her dignity. Outside, the cold air brushed against her skin, but her heart was steady. She raised her hand and took a taxi. Please, take me home, she said softly. The ride was quiet. Streetlights passed like fading memories as Sandra stared out the window. Her mind replayed everything, the laughter, the recording, the shame, the truth she had spoken out loud for the first time. She did not cry. She had cried enough for one lifetime. When the taxi stopped at the mansion, Sandra stepped out slowly. The building stood tall and quiet, glowing in the night like it always had. But tonight, it no longer felt like home. She went straight to her room. Her small room at the back of the mansion. She closed the door behind her and leaned against it for a long moment. Her chest felt heavy, not with sadness, but with finality. She pulled out her suitcase and began to pack. Each folded dress felt like a goodbye. Each slipper placed inside felt like letting go. She was choosing herself. A soft knock came at the door. Sandra froze. Then the door opened. Adrian stepped inside. He did not look like the powerful billionaire everyone feared. He looked like a man who was afraid of losing something precious. "Sandra," he said quietly. "Please, don't leave." She did not turn to face him. Her hands continued packing. "I'm sorry," he whispered, "for everything." She paused, but only for a second. "I was cruel," he continued, his voice trembling. "I spoke down to you. I treated you like you were invisible. I let people hurt you when I should have protected you." Still, she said nothing. Adrian stepped closer, his heart pounding. "I didn't know I was breaking you," he said. "And when I finally saw it, it was almost too late." Sandra turned slowly and looked at him. Her eyes were calm, not angry, not begging, just tired. "Now you see," she said softly. "Yes," he replied immediately. "And I hate myself for being blind." Tears gathered in his eyes, but he didn't wipe them away. "Please," he said, his voice low and honest. "Don't leave like this." Sandra looked at her suitcase, then back at him. "If I stay," she said gently, "I will lose myself again." Adrian shook his head. "I won't let that happen," he said. "I swear." She smiled sadly. "You swore many times before," she replied. Silence stretched between them. Then Sandra sighed. "I will stay," she said quietly. Adrian's breath caught, "but not for love," she continued, "and not for promises." She looked straight at him. "I will stay for my dignity and for my work. But my heart, I am taking it back." Adrian nodded slowly. "I accept that," he said. "I will earn everything I want from you." She pushed the suitcase back under the bed. From that day, the mansion changed. Sandra still worked, but differently. She moved with quiet confidence. She spoke less, but stood taller. She no longer waited for Adrian's attention, and that hurt him more than rejection ever could. When he entered a room, she stepped away. When he spoke, she answered politely and left. At night, Adrian found himself watching her from a distance. The way she walked, the way she focused on her tasks, the way she carried herself like someone who had finally learned her worth. He began to notice things he had never noticed before. How gentle she was with everyone. How patient. How strong. And slowly, painfully, he began to fall in love. Not with the girl who loved him blindly, but with the woman who had learned to stand without him. One afternoon, he stopped her in the hallway. "Sandra," he said softly, "why are you avoiding me?" She looked at him calmly. "I am not avoiding you," she replied. "I am protecting myself." His chest tightened. "I look at you differently now," he said, "with care, with respect." She met his eyes. "I looked at you like that once," she said, "and I lost myself." She stepped past him. That night, Adrian lay awake staring at the ceiling. For the first time in his life, money felt useless, because the woman he loved was in the same house, and farther away than ever. And he knew then, if he wanted Sandra's heart again, he would have to love her, without control, without pride, and without conditions. Slowly, gently, truly. After that night, he began looking for Sandra more, not in a way that frightened her, but in a way that felt careful and sincere. He noticed when she passed through the hallway, when she cleaned the living room, when she sat quietly during her break, staring into space. He did not interrupt her work. He simply helped when help was needed. If she carried something heavy, he lifted it without a word. If she reached for something too high, it was already in her hands. If she looked tired, he asked softly, "Are you okay?" No commands, no authority, just care. At first, Sandra stayed guarded, but the way he looked at her had changed. There was no judgment in his eyes anymore, only respect. The gifts began quietly. One morning, Sandra found a small, wrapped box on the table she always cleaned first. Inside was a simple wristwatch. Not expensive, not flashy, something useful. She wore it. The next gift was a soft scarf folded neatly on her chair. Then flowers, wild flowers, placed by the window she loved. Every gift felt like a sentence he was too afraid to say out loud. And Sandra kept every one, because for the first time, the gifts did not feel like power. They felt like thought. Adrian found gentle reasons to talk to her. How was your day? Did you eat? Are you tired? Sometimes they spoke. Sometimes they just sat together in silence. And one evening, as Sandra practiced reading from her English book, she spoke softly. I want to go back to school. Adrian looked at her, not surprised. What do you want to study? He asked. She hesitated. I stopped school early, but I want to learn for myself. He nodded slowly. Then you should, he said. She looked at him carefully. You won't laugh? She asked. I will be proud, he replied. At Sandra's request, Adrian enrolled her in school. He arranged classes that fit her work schedule, bought her books, helped her practice but never corrected her harshly. Every night, he listened as she read aloud. Every improvement made him smile, and every mistake made her stronger. Their bond grew quietly, not rushed, not forced. One rainy evening, thunder rolled through the mansion. Sandra hugged her arms. I'm scared of storms, she admitted. Adrian stood close, but did not touch her. I'm here, he said. I won't leave. And for the first time, Sandra leaned slightly toward him, just a little, but it meant everything. One afternoon, she looked at him and said, You changed for me. I know, he shook his head. No, he said, I changed because of you. Her eyes filled with tears. I still love you, she whispered. Adrian's breath caught. I am in love with you, he said. With the woman you are becoming. He reached for her hand slowly. She placed hers in his. This time, without fear, months later, Adrian stood before his family and said proudly, This is Sandra, the woman I love, the woman who chose growth, the woman who taught me humility. Sandra spoke for herself. Her English was not perfect yet, but her confidence was. She was not hidden. She was not corrected. She was loved. She went back to school. She grew. She became more confident, and Adrian never stood in front of her. He stood beside her, and together they built a love that was gentle, honest, and equal. A love that did not erase her, but helped her shine, and they lived happily ever after. Did you enjoy this story? Kindly let us know where you are watching from. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Thank you so much for watching.